Okay, Jose, we're going to be talking about Ched Evans. What's your views?
Well, this is a bit of a political minefield, to be honest. My views on this situation is it's not a straightforward, clear-cut rape case, as in, I think Judy Finnegan came out with something similar to this, and she was trying to say it wasn't a violent rape, and she got slammed as condoning rape and that sort of thing. It's a consent issue that revolves around the case, really. That's what it comes down to. Was this a willing menage a trois? Was she capable of reasonable, understanding of the circumstances? That's impossible for anybody to really know, bar for the three people that were there that night. And the more you get into it, the more complex it is. But what makes it strange is, with these people coming out and now deciding that he shouldn't ever play professional football again, whatever your views on the crime itself is irrelevant. Nowhere in the law does it say that once you've been convicted of a crime and served your time, that you shouldn't be rehabilitated back into society. This has become a media witch hunt. My views on it is, even if he won his appeal and he proved himself innocent, it don't take away from the fact that it's slightly amoral to be involved in a willing menage a trois. It's not in the norm, sort of thing. It's questionable behaviour for somebody, anybody, no matter what position, unless it's between consenting adults and it's kept out of public view, which most of the time things like that would be. But where we fall down on this is this: these people that are demanding that he never plays football again, I bet half of them haven't even looked into case and looked into details. It's a very shaky conviction that he served his time for anyway. If there's reasonable doubt, where I understand it, you're not supposed to be convicted if the jury believes there's reasonable doubt. I don't see how there's many rape cases that have got more questionable conviction than when two parties are charged with the same offence and one's found not guilty and one's found guilty. It's obviously shaky ground just on that alone, regardless of what else happened. And from what I understand, they both vouched for each other that this were free consenting adults, and these two footballers said that she were willing and participated. She then says she couldn't remember anything. So where I see that, you've got two men saying that this happened and they could remember, and she's saying she can't remember, which is really even more confusing as to how there were a conviction, because where's the witness stating the opposite? Once again, it's a question of consent then. I think people are looking at it, seeing the word convicted rapist, and are confusing him as if he's somebody that's jumped out of a bush with a knife and took somebody in a violent attack and forced himself on someone, when nobody knows what actually happened, even the person who's the victim. Now, naming this woman and shaming her, which has been done across public media, is appalling. But I don't think it's fair at all that people can just decide that this young man now can never play in his chosen profession again. You see, I think a lot of this comes down to jealousy. If that man were an airline pilot and there were same mitigating circumstances, and he had this and this happened, are you telling me that he'd never be allowed to return as an airline pilot? I don't think that'd happen, because I don't think anybody'd ever know what happened, because it wouldn't make the front page of papers.
So do you think it's down to the profession, him being famous, or the fact he's on a large amount of money that people are saying he shouldn't go back to it?
I think it's because the profession and the glamorisation of football and the misunderstanding of what it actually takes to become a footballer. You see, a footballer spends more time learning his trade than a surgeon. It starts that this individual, Mr. Ched Evans, didn't just leave school at 16, decide he was going to be a footballer, get signed and became a footballer. He's probably been training to be a footballer since he was 7 years old. When everybody else were playing on their Super Nintendo and Game Boy, he was probably out on field practicing his passing, practicing his finishing touch. I mean, if he got signed by an academy when he was 10, 11 year old, he's still done 16 hours a week at the academy training every week before he even left school. And when you take that amount of time into it, it means he's missed a large portion of his childhood. People just look at the figures that they're on. They don't realise that they've been doing that profession unpaid part-time for probably 10 to 15 years before they even become a professional footballer. If they become one, because it's 1 in 1,000. So that man's obviously worked really hard to become one of them 1 in 1,000s. And now somebody's decided, contrary to the law that's supposed to encourage rehabilitation, that he can never pursue that career that he's already dedicated all that time to.
So do you think that people are bowing to public pressure, the clubs are bowing to public pressure because of the type of case that it is? And are they being swayed by money? Because a lot of these sponsorship deals that have signed are threatening to pull away from the clubs, and threats have been made by these sponsors to pull away from the clubs if they have anything to do with Ched Evans. If those threats hadn't been made and it was just public outcry, do you think we'd still be having this conversation today?
I think it's the public outcry more than the sponsorship. But this is the other thing that concerns me. Since when did having a sponsorship dictate what players you can and can't sign? When did the sponsors become the managers or the chairman? This should be decided by the manager. It's a footballing matter. Personal life doesn't come into being a footballer. I mean, I keep hearing all these things about these role models. He's a bad role model for children. It's ludicrous. People don't watch what you do on the football pitch and then think, oh, I'll look him up on Wikipedia and I'll copy what he's done. The only reason the public knows about this is because the media has spread it everywhere. It's them that have fetched it to the limelight. If he'd been convicted and it had been a private matter, would anybody know so they could envy him or copy him? And what idiot would do that? What little intelligence are they giving to the general public, saying people will look at him as a role model and think it's okay to do that? I'm not defending if he did what he's been convicted of and it's found that he did it, it's appalling, it's terrible. There's no excuses, but there's no excuse to decide that the man now has no future ever in his chosen profession. That he didn't just walk into that's it's been his entire life, and you expect him to change it because of a crime that's an heinous crime. But it's not straightforward. I really wonder how many people have even looked into conviction and not questioned, that looks a bit strange for, to be convicted of that when other man got off scot-free. I mean, the entire thing is two issues that people are blending into one. Regardless of what he did, what he didn't do, he has the same right as everybody else to go back to his chosen profession and be rehabilitated. I think if his job were anything other than a footballer, he'd still be going back to his job unless it were dealing with vulnerable people, which is not on a football pitch because he's segregated by more police there than anywhere else in any other job from the public. So why are they having this witch hunt against him? I mean, just imagine for a moment and put yourself in that perspective. What if he were actually telling truth and he'd done 2.5 years? And it were all consenting, they were all drunk together that night. Just what if? I'm not defending the other, I'm just going down this line. So bear with me, don't jump all on me for this. What if it were genuinely true? And due to media outcry, he committed suicide? And it was found out later through mitigating circumstances he hadn't done that. Would all these trolls and keyboard warriors and feminists go and pay half as much attention and time to his grieving family that they've drove him to it? It's ridiculous. It's beyond the pale. We either change the law so all people convicted of rape are put to sleep with lethal injection, or you get off his back, because that's the laws of the land, and mob rule isn't right. This is why you elect people into positions of authority and power. This is why we have a justice system. This is why people sit over you. But they didn't convict him and say, you've been convicted of rape, you will serve 5 years. He's done 2.5 years. They've let him out for good behaviour. But when you come out, you'll never, ever, ever have a career again in football. You'll never be able to coach football because of that conviction. So what are they trying to do? I mean, what is this?
So do you think that people are expecting him to pay more for his crime now than what he's actually being given by the justice system? Is that what all this is about?
That's exactly what all this is about. This is like watching people chase Frankenstein's monster with burning torches. It's a witch hunt. It's not justice. It's just people. Half of it's driven by jealousy, and the other half of it is people just jumping on bandwagon. And I imagine most of the people that are protesting haven't looked into convictions, and it's just blown out of proportion.
Do you think there's a bit of divide because of the fan base as well? We all know that in Sheffield there's two strong football teams, and there's always been a bit of rivalry between these two. Do you think it's the other football fans that's against him going back into football rather than his own?
I'd imagine that there's a lot of people from rival football teams would have signed that petition just out of a little bit of spite, banter, but obviously a lot of people are going to be genuinely upset and don't think he should be a footballer again. But who are people to decide what happens? Why have now masses of people that can hide behind the keyboard got the right to dictate what happens to people? This is the problem. It's mob culture, and it exists in everything now. People are no longer allowed to have a right opinion of their own if it's not in conjunction with what other people think they should think. And I mean, all these people are going on about fighting for justice. What justice? This isn't in the laws of the land. They're going above and beyond. I mean, the media is stoking this, and I don't know why. I mean, that man's just been down to, I think it were Oldham that tried to sign him, and then they had sponsors pulling out. What'll happen to him in the end? I mean, Steve Bruce came on, he's been on radio today saying everybody deserves a second chance. And that's how I see it. Everybody does deserve the second chance regardless of what happened. And mob culture should never be law. That's my opinion.
I think what we need to remember through all this is that he is a human being. He has committed a crime and been found guilty of a crime at this moment in time. But we've still got to remember he has the same rights as everyone else.
Yeah, and that's what I think.
He should be allowed to live his life the same as everyone else. Thank you, Jose, for discussing Ched Evans.